All right, in the Auto Watch tonight, Stellantis has announced it will reduce production, I should say, at the Mack assembly plant in Detroit and Toledo's Jeep plant in 2024. They will make fewer SUVs, helping meet California's strict emission standards.
Now, with less production, Stellantis says it will eliminate a shift at each plant, and thousands of workers could lose their jobs, though Stellantis says it could be just a few hundred jobs cut. The production changes could come as soon as February of next year.
Yeah, it could be a very quick change. Joining us to dissect this announcement and the situation is Wayne State Professor of Management, Mr. Merrick Masters. Thank you for being here. And Paul Eisenstein, Editor-in-Chief of Headlight.News. Glad to have you as well.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.
So, Paul, we'll start with you. How are you feeling about what we're hearing right now with them making this plan possibly to reduce how much they're making as far as these vehicles are concerned?
Well, if you look, Jeep sales are down, I think, something like 9% for the first 9 months of the year. They don't report monthly. It's not a good sign. Jeep had been on the ascendancy for years, and now they seem to be stabilizing and dropping off. It doesn't surprise me that they would have to cut production.
So the Toledo plant was one of the first to go on strike back in September at the beginning of the UAW strike. It was also the only Stellantis assembly plant to vote against ratifying the contract. So, Merrick, is that something we should read into at all?
I don't read anything into that particular aspect of it. What I think is this is a business decision due to the environmental standards in California and the 14 other states that copy those standards. And it's a necessary reality that they're facing. There are going to be adjustments as a result of the negotiations, the contracts, but changes in demand. What you've seen is a dampening of demand to some extent due to high interest rates and the costs, and it's variable across firms and across countries. And so the pace of EV may have slowed down a bit in the United States and in Europe to some extent, but in other parts of the world it's also moving at an accelerating pace. And so it's a very complicated issue that you face with. It's the intersection of policy, politics, and markets.
Paul, what does this mean for jobs? Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, you hit on something very interesting, policies and politics. Stellantis, the parent of Jeep, immediately shot off at the folks in California. You may recall that there was a big battle over whether California had the right to set its own emission standards, which of course would affect the type of vehicles that could be sold. 4 automakers, including Ford Motor Company, struck a deal. It was a sort of a sweetheart deal. And now Stellantis is saying one of the reasons for these cuts is because of that deal. I think they're stretching a little bit. It almost looks like they're trying to find somebody else to blame. But it could lead to a big battle because they're asking the government and possibly the courts to overturn that agreement.
Right. And in the long run, what would that mean for jobs and also the production of other types of vehicles?
Well, depending on what happens, if the courts for some reason wind up doing with what Donald Trump did, which is to strip California of the right to come up with some of these deals and so on, that could change a lot in the future because California is a clear driving force behind the move to electric vehicles.
Yeah, Stellantis did say that the California regulations are in part what led to this change. Merrick, what other factors might be playing a role here?
Well, it's demand. I mean, they have to have a certain percentage by 2026. They have to have 35% of their vehicles sold in California EVs. And obviously, they've got a backlog of EVs there already. They can't send any more over there. And they don't want to send internal combustion engines over there because they'll violate the standards. So if you're looking for an internal combustion engine car in a non-California state in terms of compliance with California standards, you're going to be in good luck if you're looking for a Stellantis brand. But if you're looking for one in California, you're not going to be in such good luck. You know, the head of Stellantis, the CEO, said that this transition is going to be more difficult than people realize, and that one of the variables in the United States is the presidential election. And Donald Trump has said, and you know what the House of Representatives did recently in passing a law, it's not going to go anywhere through the Senate, but saying that, you know, we've got to take another look at these emission standards and roll back. That if Trump gets into office, you're going to see a radical shift in
away
the
from
rapidity
EVs.
in which we pursue. I think the train has left the station. It's moving in that direction, but it will not nearly be at the pace in the United States, but the rest of the world is going to go ahead at a very accelerated pace.
Yeah. If you look at what the CFO at General Motors said last week, he said that EV sales are going to accelerate, but they will be choppy. And we're seeing that now. Ford Motor Company literally minutes ago apparently announced that they're going to cut back production of the F-150 Lightning. A very well received vehicle, won a number of Car of the Year awards, including North American Truck of the Year. But there is a bit of a pushback from an overabundant push into EVs only at the beginning of the year. We're going to see ups and downs. EVs will come on, but it'll take a little longer, I think, than people had expected.
Now, with Stellantis saying thousands of jobs could be affected, but maybe only a few hundred, is that essentially them just waiting to see what happens?
No, I think they're erring on the side of caution. They want to be in compliance with the laws that require, that you notify people if you're going to have to be laid off. And so they've indicated that in an abundance of caution, they overestimated the number of people that might possibly be affected so that they don't catch themselves in a difficult situation later on. But you know, that'll be an economic decision exactly how many people are laid off.
Sure.
It'll be a function of the reality of the market more than anything else.
Well, we will be following any developments closely. Professor Merrick Masters and Paul Eisenstein from Headlight.News, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.